Tony's storytelling. Tony's television career began a half-century ago, holy poop, in the hills of North Carolina. Within 10 years, the native of Scranton was on the air at 30 Rock, WNBC TV, and in '85 he was hired at Baltimore Channel 2 as weatherman, feature reporter, and telethon host. Since retiring from Baltimore television, Pagnotti has entertained as a comedian, storyteller, and guest speaker at senior centers and residential living communities in the Maryland area. Tony's daughter is a speech pathologist, and my daughter is a speech pathologist. So we have a lot in common, and I'm going to introduce the Tony Pagnotti, who's got his red hat and his gig.
I'm going to pay him in advance.
Oh, wow.
God bless you.
Any wooden nickels in here?
Is the lavalier on? 3. One more.
Well,
There we go.
it's not just an honor to be here, but to have a paisano introducing me. This guy
Yeah, I
and
just wanted
I
to hear
hang
what he
in a
was
lot
saying.
of Italian social circles. Are you surprised about that? All right, let me tell you something. First off, there's a number of Italian civic groups, but Paul and I are in the Men's Zappian Society, Italian men's group. And yes, we do like to wear our Italian culture on our sleeves. We do. But we also got to tell you, when we have the Italian pasta dinner, we sometimes wear the sauce on our shirts. Speaking of sauce, have you ever had Paul's famous rail sauce? Would you believe he and Martina in their apartment churn out that rail sauce that's distributed everywhere? Have you seen it in the grocery stores, rails? High quality Italian sauce? Well, I gotta tell you, truth is,
Okay.
I asked him that when I met him a few years back, and he said, no, he's not the boss of sauce. But this guy, I'm sure some of you know, is the boss of speech language pathologists. As he said, my daughter is, and his daughter, of course, is like Martina. But my daughter was so impressed because he, for over a half century, has been involved. Good thing about him is, I love the way he's turned his profession and passion to help other people. Just yesterday, and I didn't tell him I was going to mention it, but the Isabella daughters in Little Italy honor every Advent, they have a dinner. Paul and Martina were among the awardees for their reaching out, helping others in the field, and just helping the community. Let's hear it for Paul. Oh, wait a minute. I'm supposed to talk about me. Let me tell you. I'm kind of surprised. Paul said I'd be speaking to senior citizens. I see teeny boppers from the 60s. I see cool cats from the 50s. And dare I say, I see jitterbuggers from the 40s? Any jitterbuggers out there? I bet. I'm not going to go into the 30s. I know there's a couple 100-year-olds here at Charlestown, but I've got to tell you, blessed to be here. And I'm going to be sharing with you some stories. I just happen to have a copy of that book over there, Scripted and Unscripted Lives. And I'm going to explain to you in a minute how we all have the scripted and unscripted in our lives and how we deal with it. But before those of you who I'm sure, I think Dawn, I have one fan here. Where's Dawn? Dawn said she used to watch me when she was in first grade. Where's Dawn? She's over here. Don Strumsky, thank you for I know I have one thing, but for those of you who maybe hadn't seen me over my 40 years in Baltimore, we're gonna roll a
So
little
most of Full
2-minute
House.
clip. It starts with me when I was at Oriole Park at Camden Yards, when the Pope came to town, and it ends with me being roughed up by some professional wrestlers. So here's kind of 2 minutes, 40 years in about 2 minutes on this video. Who is that baby?
Baltimore. I'm Tony Pagnani once again throughout the stand here, looking around and seeing that it's nice of all of you to arrive early for Mass. It's always good to arrive early in Mass. However, I don't think we have any seats up front right now. I'm seeing that's pretty much. The Holy Father is on his way, and in just moments, our pilgrim of peace will be here at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Let's have
This is the MDA telethon.
It's the MDA Telenor's telethon. I'm Tony Pagnani with the lovely Beverly Burke.
Of tradition, labor of love, as we like to call it, right, Bev?
From lawn to garden.
I did a home improvement show. Didn't know anything about home improvements.
And also, when digging the hole, make sure it's about a foot deep. Now, I also have another quick tip that I think you'll find very appealing. That's right. Don't throw away that old banana skin. I'm Tony Pagnani. We're here all day long, and I hope you get out here by tomorrow. 6 o'clock, this big sale will be open. We've been talking about all the minivans. 350 vehicles in all to choose from, but there's something. But as they say, the show.
How to ride the elephant when the circus came to town.
Any idea how the elephant feels about all this?
Any comments? Four-year-old not only walks.
Love doing stories on seniors long before I was a senior.
Several times. You win. Congratulations. You get more than Macho is a lifelong dream. Would Elizabeth be able to give me a kiss? I know she's your manager. This is something. We have Sally Flora at our station, our anchor, but Elizabeth has always been my fantasy. One little kiss from Elizabeth. The answer is no. Everybody, but you get a handshake from the Macho Man right here. Macho, best of luck. And you know we've got this honky tonk man. You never know what the heck this guy's gonna do. The dirtiest run is he is, Tony. You know he's not coming. You're coming to me. Things are getting out of control, Scott. I'll have to resort to this match, hopefully, a little bit later on.
Tough way to make a buck, but some of these guys do. You know, interesting tidbit. When I was interviewing the Macho Man, this is live, and they were introducing me.
We only have 2.5 minutes.
Well, that's the next good. We're not going to see that one right yet. But so we're there, and just before the Macho Man is going to come out to do the interview, the promoter says, "Can't do it. Can't do the interview." I go, "Well, they're coming to me in 2 minutes. You gotta." And he said, "You're too big. You're too tall." Macho Man is built, but he was like under 60. I'm 6'5". So I said, "Please, we need." So what they did, I said to them, "How about if I sit down?" So that's why you saw me sitting down. So they're the Macho Man. We did the interview and all went well. All right. Paul mentioned scripted and unscripted life, and I actually named my book. It wasn't, and I'll tell you a little bit. I'm going to be sharing stories from that book that came out 3 years ago. It wasn't meant to be a book, but it's a memoir of my years in television. And when it came time for me to select a name for that book, I got thinking of, you don't have to be in TV, but just think how many times in your life you think your script is going to run this way, but then you go off script and say, "Oh, Maron, how did that happen? Now what? Now what am I going to do?" So I titled it TV memoir, My Scripted and Unscripted Life. Let's face it, we all like to plan from when we're young until now. We're always planning what the future holds for us. But how many times have we been saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do the next thing, and then a year from now, put your ear to the sky, and what do you hear? Laughter. The big guy upstairs says, oh, so that's what you're planning to do, huh? That's what you want to do. It sounds like a good plan, but let's see. Let's wait on that. Well, with that being the case, just trying to figure out, what the next step is going to be. As irony would have it, shortly after the book came out, I went for a regular routine visit to the doctor, and he said that I needed further testing. And I probably should have listened for that laughter because I had no plans as to what he told me was going to have to happen next. But guess what? Just like in all good television when we try to tease the audience, I'm not going to share with you the story of what almost happened to the script 3 years ago, but here's even a further tease. You don't say details at 11, like who's going to stay up anymore until 10 or 11 o'clock. I guarantee you at the end of this presentation I will tell you, but a little tease. 2.5 years ago, my daughters were looking into Charleston for me for assisted living. It has a happy ending because I'm here today, but scripted and unscripted life, keep it in mind. All right, Scranton, PA. Yes, indeed, proud to say I am from there. Now, when I grew up there, my father was a pharmacist, Pagnovi's Pharmacy, and I'm sure many of you wanted your children, especially old school dads following their father's footsteps, or sons following their father's footsteps. My dad's plan was, I'm going to grow up, take over the pharmacy. We lived over the drugstore. Remember the old days before all the CVS's, you actually had your neighborhood pharmacy? That was us up in Scranton. My mother, being a good Catholic Italian mom, you know what she wanted me to be? A priest! A priest of all things. So it sounded like a good plan until I get to high school, say, Dad, don't have real interest or aptitude in chemistry. Oh, no, he was trying to help me work with it. My mom, I said, Mom, you know what? I think I like girls too much to commit to being a priest. Well, son, what do you want to be? And guess what my dream job was back then? Maybe still deep down in my heart. I wanted to be on the radio. I loved maybe listening to myself talk, and I loved music. And my father said, disc jockey? You don't have to go to college for being a disc jockey. So I said, let's see what happens. So I go to Boston University, 1974 BC, before computers. And I'm majoring in broadcast journalism because my father said, you should do something respectful, get into news or that, but you don't want to be I wanted to be a morning man on the radio. I wanted to be a personality on the radio. That was my dream. So I was at the campus radio station, and I was Big Daddy Pags on the radio. And the guy who followed me was this awkward, tall, kind of my size, not as heavy, but a big, tall, lanky Jewish kid from Long Island who, we didn't get paid, but they kicked him off the campus station because he was doing racial and sex humor. I don't know whatever happened to him, but his name is Howard Stern. Last I checked, and not that I check, but I do check, worth $750 million, Howard Stern. He's still on the radio, but Sirius Radio, but yeah, Howard and I that was one of my early claims to fame. So let's move it forward now. I graduate from Boston University, and I say to my father, okay, I'm not going to be a pharmacist, but I am going to get to TV. Okay, well that sounds a little bit better. So what I'm doing is, I go to my local station up in Scranton, and they told me that there was a young reporter, maybe 3 or 4 years older than I was, who went to BU, and look him up, maybe I can get an internship. So I go there, and there's this cocky, brazen, again, another New Yorker, and I introduced myself, and he just seemed to be full of himself. Found out that no one really in the station cared for him because he was as abrasive on air as he was off air. But he took the liking to me. I had him up to maybe it says I did have him to my house for some manigotti and meatballs. My mother said, invite him up. So he helped me make a resume tape. His name, Bill O'Reilly. Bill O'Reilly was at one time the #1 cable news, and then scandal. His career went. He's still out there on YouTube and whatever. But so just think about Howard Stern and Bill O'Reilly. That's quite a combination, isn't it? Okay. So now it's time to get a job. I got to show my mom and dad I can work in TV. So when you're trying to get into television, you send a tape, which I made at the internship. So I made the tape, and I'm sending it all over the country. You have to start at the bottom, you know, the old expression, start at the bottom. So I was getting rejected from everywhere, from Bangor, Maine to, I don't know, I can't remember all of them, but rejection after rejection. So one day, I'm going to check the mail to see maybe I got something, and I see CBS New York. I go, oh my goodness, I would never apply to CBS in New York, but it wasn't addressed to me, it was addressed to my mother. Mom, did you enter a contest and you know, CBS New York? She goes, oh, I'll open that later. I go, no, let's look at it now. She opens it. Dear Mrs. Pagnotti, thank you for your recent letter. I am sure your son Tony is very bright, hardworking, and would love to work with me. However, his qualifications do not meet our standards here. Respectfully signed, Walter Cronkite, CBS News. Mom, why did you write to Walter Cronkite? Well, they say you gotta know somebody to get a job. Do you know Walter? Well, he comes into our living room every night. Wow. My mother was one of a kind, let me tell you, talk about #1 fan. So, finally, I get a call from a station in Asheville, North Carolina. Now, I hear Asheville's a real shishi brewery town. I haven't been back there in 50 years. But back then it was Andy of Mayberry time. They're still busted moonshine stills. And when I just prior to that, a TV consultant had said to me, well, if you're going to be on TV, you've got to change your name. To ethnic, you need a nice, memorable name. So he suggested Tony Page. My father said, Tony Page, yeah, be proud of your heritage. Be an ethnic will pay off someday. Well, I don't think he realized what it was like down in Asheville. And when you think of it, just think of you know who Dino Crescetti, you know who that is? Dean Martin. Antonio Benedito, Tony Bennett. Here's one I bet you won't know because this I find fascinating. He's not a singer, but very famous. Alfonso D'Abruzzo. Alan Alda. So anyway, that's the, show business. So I get that, I didn't change my name, I listened to my dad, I get to Asheville, and everybody down there is named Billy Joe Jim Bob. And I'm Tony Pagnotti. $4 an hour. This is 1976 now. I don't know what, I think minimum wage might have been right around there or less than that, but anyway, $4 an hour, you get to be a reporter, a photographer, you edited the film, you were on TV. It's kind of a paid internship. My dad said to me, $4 an hour? Are you crazy? We just paid at Boston University? What are you? Chooch? Stunad? Paul can tell you, it's kind of not a flattering term to call your son. So I said, Dad, but I just will stay here a short period of time. Well, the other decision that wasn't probably great, other than taking that first job, I probably shouldn't, as we say, bury the lead story. I also was engaged to my college sweetheart. Now, how smart was that? She still had to finish school. I'm going to go to North Carolina. What could go wrong, right? Didn't listen to my parents, these could have told you so. But anyway, I leave my fiance home until we're going to have a one-day honeymoon because the station told me in May they couldn't give me more than 2 days off. So we had a one-day honeymoon. But I get there, and Billy Joe, Jim Bob, and the cast, and everyone else is there. And I think I was going into Burger King, McDonald's. When you're making $4 an hour, that's your morning, noon, and night go-to. And Billy Joe, Jim Bob, it looks like they're high school kids, and they turn out to be. They said, "Hey, you're that Tony Pagnotti on TV. You're Italian, aren't you?" Yeah, I'm Italian. And I go, do you like pizza? Is your kid in the mafia? All the stereotypes coming back to roost. Yeah, no, I don't have any mafia, I do like pizza, etc. So they go, you know what, we have a shop teacher at our high school, Mr. Giordano, he's Italian. Do you think you could teach us something that we could say tell him and impress him? Yeah. I said, tomorrow I want you first to, I go, we use our hands a lot in Italian. So I want you, this will really impress him. Go and say, hi, Mr. Giordano, and first do this. And then do this. A couple of the Italians are going, oh no. You can Google that later, but Paul will tell you, but it's something you would not go, and they said, oh, and then what's going to happen? I go, you'll be picking your hillbilly ass off the ground after Mr. Giordano gets through with it. So I'm in Asheville, and I stay there. Meanwhile, my fiance and I would get married in May. I had a one day again because the station said, I learned early in TV, there's no holidays, there's no honeymoon. You got to work every time when we need you, especially when you're on the bottom, starting out. So I am in Asheville, and I'm learning, really learning the business, and I get a call that a station in Columbus, Ohio, was going to pay me now $7 an hour. Whoopee! So my fiance no sooner moves to Asheville looking for a job, and I tell her, guess what? I'm going to Columbus, Ohio. Come on, you gotta come along. So she did. So I'm in Columbus, Ohio, and things are okay, but I'm learning more. I'm getting more, responsibilities and such. And I'd say after about a year and a half, again, you'll get the hint on this, that the TV business, and you could just tell by over the years you watching TV, you'll see somebody here today, gone tomorrow. Oh, they went on to pursue, or they, climbed the ladder or whatever. So I'm in Columbus, Ohio, And I no sooner was getting there that I was itchy to try to move up further. And I get a call from New Haven, Connecticut. And I'm thinking, okay, we're going from small to medium, semi-medium, so I'm climbing, and I'm only still, I was a year and a half, so I was about 25, 26 maybe. So I get to New Haven, Connecticut, and things are going along swimmingly there. I was first time anchoring at the station that hired me, not a main anchor, but the weekend anchor. But still, I was earning more money, more prestige, larger market, until the first reality of TV hit me when I got, our guy who hired me was let go, and a new guy came in, and he said, we're not renewing your contract. In famous last words, we're going in another direction, right? Which means you're out of work. So I couldn't believe it. I thought, gee, I was doing well. And I had this news director say, oh, don't take it personally. Is this the first time you've been let go at a station? I go, yeah. He goes, oh, this is the standard. He goes, I've been let go 3 or 4 times in my career. I go, I wonder if my $4 an hour job or my father will take me back into the pharmacy fold. So the very first humbling thing I had to do, back then you actually had to show up at the unemployment office. You couldn't do it online. I show up and I'm in line and I'm looking around. I have this is back when you still could read a newspaper, a real newspaper, right? And I'm like this, trying to put my blinders on, and all of a sudden I hear somebody, or see somebody pointing, a couple of guys. I hear, hey Tony, and I look, hey, where's your camera? Are you doing a story on all us unemployed people? If I could have, I would have shrunk and gotten as small as I could have. So first time in my career, I'm out of work, trying to figure out what's gonna happen next. So I was always told, as you've probably heard, when you're out of work, do something, don't just sit by and wait for the phone to ring. So a station in Waterbury, Connecticut, which I found out was in a trailer. Waterbury is not the broadcast mecca of the world. For I think this is 1980-ish, I guess. I go in and they say, we need you, and from the trailer where their studio was, you do sports and you do news. And you know what? I was chilling up at the trailer and thinking, sending tapes everywhere until I got home one day and I hear on my voicemail machine, this is Bob Davis at WNBC TV in New York. We just saw a tape of yours you sent a year ago. I haven't even forgot I had sent it. We'd like to bring you in for an interview. Oh my goodness. So I go a week later to 30 Rock, and I'm thinking, I just left a trailer in Waterbury. Now I'm going into an elevator, and I'm riding up in the elevator like a little kid, and I'm looking up, and there, Jane Pauley, Brian Gumble, Willard Scott, Tom, all those folks are coming in and out of the elevator. So I get hired. It was only going to be a 6-month, they said it's a trial, 6 month. But for that 6 month, I actually, as a 6-month temporary reporter, was going to be making 6 figures. And that was like, hey, I hit the lottery in this business. Now I'm about 30 years old. You're wondering about my fiance / wife by now of 6 years. She would try to follow me each place, and quite frankly, when we're in New Haven, I would take the train from New Haven to New York, an hour and a half each time, just to try, because she got a job in New Haven. So I'll get to this part. Anyway, I take the job in New York, And the thing of it is, I should tell you, you saw that tape that we just showed. I was hired at all these stations as a general assignment reporter, which means you do murders, you do death, you do destruction, you do city council, you do general assignments. I always wanted to do the stories that were positive, good, uplifting, reaching out, helping people. But the news business, I found out, doesn't operate that way. So in New York, they said, well, you get to do some of those nice feature stories and things, but at the same time, you have to cover the death, the destruction. In New York, you know, has a plenty big menu of that. So one day I'd be doing this great feature on Broadway opening, but then that night at 11, I'm at a fire in the Bronx. I played the role well. I don't have the personality of a hard news reporter, but I played it well to make it to New York. But I really shined when I did the stories that I enjoyed best. So this one time, they sent me to a subway derailment in New York. And on live TV, what happens is, and you've probably seen this, where the reporter's standing there, and then all of a sudden, you'll see a crowd gathering, hi mom, all that stuff. So in New York, same kind of deal. They set up the lights, I'm right at a subway stop, and there's a group forming around me, and they're, hey, we're gonna be on TV, and there's a monitor that I have to see so they can see when they're on TV. I go, look, if they see you screaming and yelling and waving and saying, hi mom, they're not gonna take this live shot. So you'll all get on TV, but just stand there, please, no waving or anything. So I'm into the report saying, and so the subway derailment, blah, 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 blah. And I'm live narrating the earlier footage, and I'm narrating it as such, and I'm walking along, and I'm going like this, and then all of a sudden, I feel a hand in my back pocket. I'm being pickpocketed. I'm being pickpocketed on live television. So my reflex was I grabbed the back of my pants, and as I do, the hand flees, but they didn't get the wallet. So I thought, okay, I made that. So what happened is when we would finish the news, there was a place on 49th and 6th, right at the bottom of 30 Rock, called Hurley's Pub, and we would always gather there to tell our war story, so to speak. So I'm there with the rest of the crew saying, you're not gonna believe it, I'm down there, blah, 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 so take my wallet. So there's this veteran reporter, Bob T, and he goes, I'm not trying to steal your thunder, Tony, but he was at a live shot a year ago, and he said similar situation surrounded. All of a sudden, he feels a hand not going to his wallet, but toward the family jewels. Okay, I said, and then what happened? And then he said, I said, what did you do? He goes, I go, hi, this is Bob. True story. True story. I can't make this stuff up. So I was getting kind of, I enjoyed the work in New York. My personal life wasn't great because my wife of, legally 6 years, but we were passing in the night. It wasn't, it was not a good scene. So one day they came to me and said at NBC, we really like all the live work you do. Have you ever done weather? Nope, I'm in it every day, but that's a lot of fun. that's about the only experience I have. And they said, well, our main weather guy, anybody here from New York or New York City? There's a Dr. Frank Field was the, Johnny Carson used to call him the crack meteorologist. So he was the main weather guy, and he was on vacation a lot. And they said, we're trying to fill in, we need his second backup, second banana, so to speak. And they said, we'll send you to the National Weather Service to take courses. What could go wrong with my name? Here goes my career. I'm in New York. If you bomb the Daily News, the New York Post, they're going to probably say, you know, rookie weatherman reporter sinks, you know, the Big Apple. But I thought, I got to try it. So they sent me on taking courses, and lo and behold, I am standing in front of the big green screen. You're all familiar with the green screen. In a little while, I'm going to show you a clip that's the funniest and dearest of all. But I got to tell you, forget about the knowledge of the weather. Did you ever try to, for instance, this is a green screen. You're in the studio, and the weather person is watching peripherally the TV screen of him here, there. There's nothing here. So can you imagine pointing to a map and saying, and the high pressure, and meanwhile in Alabama, wait, no. So I was practicing in front of a green screen before I went on the air, thinking, oh my God, how do they do it? It's like, you're pointing to nothing. So, my maiden voyage, I go on, and I thought, gee, it went pretty well. And they came to me and they said, you know what? We like it. We like it. Would you be interested in almost doubling your salary and being the second weather guy? Sign me up, because I figured as weather, they couldn't send me to the murders and the death and destruction, and I could be a weather guy. So, things, you know, are going great, and then all of a sudden, they told me within a month they were going to finalize everything. So it was nothing etched in stone. So they come to me in 2 weeks after that, and they say, we have a slight change of plans. And I found out I wasn't in the plans. Our consultants, and consultants are these guys who come in from somewhere else and then tell a TV station what they should do, have said that our weekend lineup, which I would be a part of, is all too white, and we need minority representation for weather. And unless you're from Sicily and can prove you've got some type of African American or Mediterranean roots, which I have roots, but wasn't going to fit the bill, they said, so we're going in another direction. You can go back to the streets until my reporter contract would expire. So I started asking around, and I went to the general manager and said, you know, well, in the meantime, while you're searching for this weatherman, you know, can I at least be doing? He goes, oh yeah, he goes, but we've already made him an offer, and I think he's going to take it. Are you ready for the third name that you've heard before? Who wants to guess? Al Roker! Al Roker! Al Roker! Why me, Lord? Al Roker! My unscripted life. Al Roker. So by this time, my wife has had it. Can you blame her? Especially after I told her, you know, probably out of work soon. I finished the end of my contract there. We were gonna finalize the divorce. We had moved to Stamford, Connecticut because I couldn't take the train ride every day, an hour and a half from New Haven. Then we moved to Fairfield, then we moved to Stamford, and then I was out of work, so we had to sell the condo. I was going through a divorce, and I put all my worldly belongings that I got after we agreed on what I was taking and what she was taking. It could all fit in my car. It was like a TV, a lamp, and quite frankly, I think a couple of good bottles of wine and maybe a little. But anyway, so I hit the road and I thought to myself, you know, you don't have a place to call home. Where are you gonna go now? You're not married. You're 30 years old. You know, what happens now? Well, there has to be Baltimore's gonna get there, but guess what? When you're looking for a job, as the case goes, it's not always there. So I had an agent. When you're in New York, you get an agent who shops you around and who does your contract. And my agent in New York said, oh, you'll get a job in some other market. And I go, you know, after New York, that was my dream. I always wanted to work in the #1 market. I don't want to work anywhere else. I was burnt out. I was like, you know, personally, professionally, I just felt like I was on the outside looking in, and I thought, you know, maybe I'll get out of TV. Maybe I'll do something else. So I am driving along, and I thought, I didn't want to actually tell my parents, believe it or not. I just felt that bad about the whole thing. So my sister, who's a couple years older than me, she's married, and I called her and I said, hey, can I crash at your, and she lived up in Scranton, can I come crash on your sofas? And I told her what happened. Oh, sure, come on up. So I'm there and I'm just living at my sister's for maybe a couple of weeks, and she says, you gotta tell mom and dad, you know, they still think you're working in New York. And I said, okay, I'll bite the bullet. So I show up at my parents' door in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and my mother's, oh, my boy is home. Whoa, what are you on vacation? I go, yeah, permanent vacation. Tomorrow I'm going to make her go-to is manicotti. I'm going to make the manicotti tomorrow for you. How long are you going to be in? Longer than you might expect. My father comes and looks at me and goes, oh, so how long do you have? I go, well, I'm not working there anymore. I told you should have been a pharmacist. I told you should have been a pharmacist. That business is no good. They just chew people up and spit them out. Mom, what's it? So I had two different approaches, a very sympathetic mother and a father who was, I told you so. So I'm sitting around enjoying my mother's cooking, being, you know, get up whatever time. I had some old friends from high school. We'd go meet at the club, everything. I'm suddenly single, up in my hometown. I didn't care if I ever went back to work. I was that burnt out. My agent keeps calling. Look, stations are interested in you. They inquire. They want you to go in for an interview. Philadelphia, no, I'm not interested. I got any market she would mention. I didn't want to hear it because it wasn't New York. So after about 2 months now, I'm still at my parents. She says, look, there's a station in Baltimore. I go, I don't want to go to Baltimore. Now listen, you got to get out of that house. They're going to fly you there. They're going to put you up. It's just getting you out of the house. You really have to start thinking about working again. So she goes, what do you have to lose? I go, all right. So Channel 2 in Baltimore. I get here. This is 1985. Actually, it was 40 years ago this past January. So yeah, 1985. And the news director said, yeah, we like your work, and we think we could use you with, I go, he's talking about news. I go, look, I'm not gonna do another news story in my life. I said, I don't wanna do any reporting. All I really wanna do, I got into this business because I wanna do positive things. He goes, well, we can't guarantee, we can have you maybe do some of that. I go, no. I go, thanks for having me here. I said, but, I wouldn't be interested. He goes, well, let's go out for dinner. We hit it off because he actually was from Asheville and worked at that. I didn't know him. So we start hitting it off. We go to the Inner Harbor, when the Inner Harbor was still the Inner Harbor. And we're sitting there having a dinner, but we're also having some nice cordial drinks. And the time is going by, and they put me up at Cross Keys. They used to have a nice hotel there. You remember Cross Keys? And he said, yeah, so we're finishing our meal. We closed the place. It's probably 11 o'clock, had our drinks, and he said, well, he had a station car because he was the news director. I'll take you back to the Cross Keys, and I was going to leave on my flight left the next morning. But let's go to this place where it's still open. It's called Christopher's. Anyone ever heard of Christopher's up in Cockeysville? It used to be a meat factory, so to speak. And hey, I'm on the company's nickel, so to speak. I got the news director going to buy me more drinks, and so we get to Christopher's, and it's hot, and there's music, it's fun, it's dancing. We close the place down, and this news director lived in Moncton, and I said, John, you should not drive home the way because he definitely would have been pulled over DUI. You really shouldn't. And he goes, well, I go, look, there's a pull-out sofa and there's the bed. You could, since you're paying for it, I'll take the sofa. Why don't you stay, call your wife, he was a wife of 4 kids, and tell her that in the morning. I said, because you really shouldn't drive. So we go to Cross Keys. He gets on the phone, honey, I was with, and all of a sudden you hear click. Yeah. So I go on the sofa to there, and he goes to the bed, and I figure I'm never going to see this guy again because I'm taking a flight out. He's going to leave in the morning. So it was 7 a.m. and I make believe I'm sleeping, and I hear him getting ready. He goes and leaves. So 2 or 3 weeks later, my agent says, that station you went to in Baltimore has a weather feature position that I think will be just your liking. Are you interested? And I said, well, maybe. And I thought, oh my God, the guy, the news director would be my boss. So I take the job. In the chapter in my book, talk about a great teaser headline. I had to sleep with my boss in Baltimore. What a great, isn't it great? Makes you want to read the rest of the chapter or the rest of the book. So anyway, there's light at the end of this tunnel, folks. I'm now in Baltimore, and I couldn't believe it. After 10 years in TV, they were so happy to have me. I was making a lot less money than I was in New York, but I found out, it took me all that time to have money. Chasing the old almighty dollar isn't as important as your sanity, your purpose in life, what you're trying to do with your life. So I get to Baltimore, and they said, yeah, you can do weather. We want you to do the telethon. We do feature stories, so I can look at Tony's Travels, yeah. I was here at Charlestown probably I don't know when there's TV studio, do you have any idea when? But I did early stories of that. There's a retirement community that has TV, has a TV studio. I would do profile on interesting seniors, kids, guys, mostly people though, just trying to finally do feel good. They actually came up with, besides Tony's Travels, called the Good News, you know? And they said, you don't have to do any city council, you don't have to cover politics, you don't have to do crime, whatever. Then I start meeting these young people through the telethon, these young people who just took my heart. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I met them and their families. There's this, when I got here, they said, we're gonna send you to MC an event for cystic fibrosis. And I said, what's cystic fibrosis? Well, you know, when you get up there, so I get there, and there's this little, this is 1987, yeah, about 87. There's this little 12-year-old has oxygen thing, he's on a little scooter. Hi, I'm Brian Gray, and he schooled me on what cystic fibrosis was, what he had. He said the average age at that time was 14, and he was 12. His brother had died at 14. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So I'm thinking, so I become fast friends with Brian. Then there's another little boy, his father shows up at Channel 2 and he says, my son's got cancer. He's this spunky little kid from Arbutus. Can you do a feature story? We do a fundraiser at the Arbutus. VFW would be the MC. Yeah, glad to do it. So I meet this little Chris Polk from Arbutus, and he grabs me by the old heartstrings, and I'm thinking, geez. And Channel 2 is saying, yeah, go ahead and do it. We're getting people, calling me. So I'm thinking, I really felt like I died and went to TV heaven because it was what I wanted to do all my career. The next year, Channel 2 sent me to Alaska, not for like goodbye Alaska, but for a feature story. And I get there, and the station gets in touch with me. This is back before cell phones. They, say, call the station. I go, Chris Polk has passed away. And I always told his family, I will always be there if anything ever happens. They go, we want you to, give remarks. You meant so much to him, etc. So I thought, oh my goodness, here I'm in Fairbanks, Alaska. 2 days later, they're going to have the funeral. So I'm in Fairbanks. I go into a drugstore and I buy a tape recorder, a little mini cassette recorder. Go into the motel place, write a eulogy, and there's this old FedEx box that looked like no one uses it. I go, well, here's anything. So I wrote it, put it on a cassette, sent it, and believe it or not, they say when it has to positively, it got there. And they played my eulogy to Chris at the ceremony. Meant so much to me. So I'm in Baltimore and I'm feeling like things are really on track. And I kind of left New York in my rear view mirror, with the exception of, by this time, I had two daughters. Annie, who Paul mentioned, is the SLP. She's now 34. And my other daughter, Allie, is an attorney. She's down in Arlington with my other 4 grandchildren. But I guess because I would tell that Al Roker story so often when friends or family came over, my little 6-year-old at the time, Annie, in the morning, I'd be going to work, they'd have the Today Show on, right? And Al Roker would be on. And I would never watch the Today Show after I left there. I just, hate to say it, but I did have hard feelings. Not that I met Al, his first couple of weeks were my last. He's very nice. I mean, hey, if I were in his shoes and someone offers you a job. But anyway, I didn't want to be reminded about what happened there. So, my little Annie would notoriously more than once say, hey, Dad, is it true you could have been Al Roker? Out of the mouths of babes, right? So I kept, So one day, I thought of the best response I can give Annie. Yes, Annie, I mighta, coulda, shoulda, woulda been out road, but guess what? If so, you and your sister would not be here, right? Never would have been to Baltimore, never would have, oh, I buried a headline there. You're thinking, oh, he was quite the carouser. He had 2 children, did he not? I remarried. I got here in '85. About a year later, even though I said I wasn't going to marry again because I felt I was married for most of my adults from say 22 to 29, I thought I'm going to kind of play the field, you know, that thing, until I meet this lovely lady, Sandy, from Baltimore. We hit it off, and in 1987, we married. And then, of course, Allie was first in 1989, Annie in 91. So that sets up, sorry I left that major headline out. You're thinking, these TV people just go into a new city, start a family? So, this sets us up nicely for this clip I'm going to show you. Annie would be about 5 or 6, Allie would be 8. You've heard take your daughter to work day. So this was telethon weekend, and I thought, you know what? I had the girls on TV, maybe a little here and there, little things that, you know, when I did something, but for the most part, they never got to be in the studio with me. So I said, all right, girls, this is the weekend weather. I'm going to be doing the weather. I'm going to introduce you, and then Dad's going to go over, do the weather. Everyone will be happy. Well, just like our scripted and unscripted life, this did not go according to script, but you know what? After you see it, you'll see what I'm talking. This is almost 30 years ago.
Ready? Come on, since we only have 2.5 minutes. Allie and Annie, what's the weather like tonight, Allie? Tonight?
Tonight it'll be raining spaghetti and meatballs. And Rosetta and bread.
73.
Hey, watch close,
man.
man.
You gotta, hey, no, you get enough TV time right now. There you go. All right, clear skies right through here. Like we were stuck in all that rain just a few days ago. Now we're gonna be stuck in high pressure for the next 2 days, 8 days in sunshine. It's looking mighty fine. On the big radar picture, Texas and Arkansas have a lot of rain out there. Let me tell you, we don't have to worry until Wednesday, until we see a little bit of that rain activity, but the high pressure is going to stay there. We're looking mighty good. You want to head down the ocean? Just worth a day trip right now, 75 degrees. Slippery Joe in the ocean, but it's chilly. 58 degrees, a lot of sunshine tomorrow, 75. All right, you got to go over there and down right with you. Here we go. Speaking of clear and cool, it's going to be 49 degrees, a beautiful June moon tonight. And I'm going to ask you, I will play you sunny if you will play some money tomorrow. How about that? On the telethon starting tonight at 9 o'clock, Children's Miracle Network telethon looking mighty good. Taking up a dad's thunder, girl. 79 degrees and a 5-day forecast. I think you're going to like it. The moral of the story is don't work with kids or dogs, especially your own.
I had no idea what the weather was like. I think you're right.
Oh, my goodness.
Come on, since we only have 2.5.
Time flies when you're having almost 30 years ago, that clip. At Channel 2, of course, in addition to all the positive, feel-good type stories, I'm loving life, everything's going wonderful. And I'm also obviously doing weather. Now, it's a lose-lose situation when you do the weather, because people generally will either remember all the time you're wrong and never when you're right. And I'll usually just, in about 10 minutes, I'm gonna do a Q&A if you, I'm sure you have some questions, and I will tell all, I have no secret, so to speak, but I'll address this when it comes to weather. People say, what's the difference between a weather person and a meteorologist? Well, let me give you the old, no longer appropriate, but the inappropriate joke that used to be said, but we would never be able to repeat it now because the political or the appropriate police would say it's not appropriate. It's not dirty or anything, but it just, you'll see what I mean. A meteorologist is the one who can look into a woman's eyes and tell the weather. Not appropriate, but it's funny. I don't tell it anywhere because then everyone's going to say, you know. But the real definition, back when I started back in the Al Roker days, when they hired him, they said they were hiring what they thought was a black or African American Willard Scott. You remember Willard? Al was that same kind of, and my personality, my TV weather personality, same kind of thing. I enjoyed it. I love saying people's names and 100th birthdays and all that good stuff. But anyway, with back in the day, they sent me to meteorological 6-week course, crash course. And a lot of people like Al, Al has no meteorological training, but he's doing the weather every day on NBC. Someone prepares it for him. Does he know what he's talking about? Yeah, you know what you're talking about. But basically, a meteorologist, in my terms, every TV station you'll notice calls their weather person a meteorologist. Distinction. A meteorologist, I say, is someone who has a Bachelor of Science or master's degree in atmospheric science. And you know what, this is a generalization, but if you try to put one of those people on TV, they would poop their pants. Generally, they're scientists. We are performers. We are given information. We have all the satellite, the radar. It's not like we don't know what we're talking about, but TV stations, about 15 years ago, Mississippi State University came up with this brilliant idea, an online broadcast meteorological certificate. So now, anyone who completes this 2-year course in the past 15 years can call themselves a meteorologist. There's no, unlike a CPA or a doctor, you can call yourself a meteorologist. You study the weather, you study the atmosphere. So the distinction is, on-air people, in this market, I'll tell you, there are two who I consider bona fide with a science background it's their major, and they actually, if I'm gonna listen for severe weather, I'd probably tune to either Tom Tasselmeyer or Tony Pan. They're the two crackerjack. The other, I'm nothing against younger people, but a lot of the younger people are hired because they look good and they know enough to tell you and can interpret the radar, satellite, etc. So the distinction again is meteorologist. Well, they called me a meteorologist, and I'll get to this at Fox 45. I said, call me what you will, I don't care, because then you start getting, well, you are a meteorologist because you finished this course and you have this credential. But anyway, so let's get back to, so I could wind up here in a little bit. Speaking of Tony Pan, he came to Baltimore, about 7 or 8 years after I did. And we met. And after a while, he said, you know, people keep coming up to me saying they think I'm Tony Pagnotti. But then I start, in like 10 years ago, people would say to me, hey, I watched you. And I had been on in Channel 2 in years, or had done the weather. Yeah, last week you said it was gonna snow. And I'm thinking, I haven't been on there in 2 years. And I go, no. I go, oh. I go, you mean Tony Pan? No, it was you. Okay, it was me. So I go into my neighborhood CVS, this was probably 5 years ago. And a woman who knows me goes into that I go to the pharmacy, says to me, Mr. Pagnotti, I gotta ask you a question. How come your son on Channel 11 doesn't use your family name and uses a short version? Tony is probably 80, I'm 72, he's probably 65-ish. So I told him this, we're friends on Facebook. So he now calls me Pops, and I call him my son, my boy. Another funny weather story. As I said, with personality, I would come up with little memorable things. I'd have fun with the weather. I would have fun with it. And I don't know how this started, but one day I started when I said, and the temperature's 82 degrees, and the humidity. Does anyone remember a goofy guy on Channel 2, me saying humidity? It lasted for a couple of years until it kind of ran its course. But anyway, so either people I'd go out and go, hey, humidity, oh, you know, people would remember it. Until one day in the newsroom, the phone rings, and they say, this woman keeps calling, she wants to speak to Mr. Pagnotti's boss. So I go, send it over. Hello, how may I help you? Is this Mr. Pagnotti's boss? Yes, it is. Well, my name is Miss Jones. I've been a Baltimore City school teacher for the past 30 years, and I think Mr. Pagnotti is doing a big disservice to all the young people by mispronouncing the word humidity instead of humidity. And I just think that he really needs to go, ma'am, you know what? I never thought of it that way, of how he could be misleading our youth. I'm going to terminate him immediately. She goes, well, no, you don't need to go, thank you, and I hang up. So, the thing about TV is, like people say when I'm addressing crowds like this, you've been on TV all those years, but you know what? Unlike TV, I'm talking to a camera and maybe one or two people in the studio. Here, I can see if anyone's dozing off, if someone's looking at their phone and not listening to me, you know, if you are, you know, so it's a whole different thing, but I just really enjoy coming out and doing this. And I'm actually, because I'm going to leave 10 minutes here for Q&A, since we started with the Italian, I'm going to end with my mother, my dear mother again. She passed at 66 years old, diabetes, oh my goodness. She was I dedicate that story, the Walter Cronkite story, I dedicate to her in the forward of the book. She was my #1 fan. But anyway, 66, passes away. She was a character. I think my father was kind of the introverted pharmacist. My mother was the outgoing. Yeah, let's have a party. So this is one of her favorite jokes. Of everything I told you today, everything was true. This story is not true, but it's a pretty funny joke. At least I think. My mother, I think, told me this when I could first understand jokes. So here we go. My great Uncle Giuseppe, he was 95 years old, lived a wonderful life. However, the doctors said, oh, you know what, I almost forgot to, I have one other, I promise you something else. I'll do this quick and then I'm gonna end with the other one. But anyway, so Uncle Giuseppe's not doing well. He wants to stay at home. He doesn't want to go to hospice or any type of care. His wife Angelina is there to comfort him and etc. So he's in and out of consciousness, just sleeping in bed. And one morning he smells pizzelles. Anisette and the pizzelles. His favorite, his go-to, right? So he said, I got pizzelle. So he kind of just gets out of bed on his hands and knees, and he's crawling, and he said, oh my goodness, he's following the aroma of the pizzelles, and he goes up to the kitchen table and does this, and all of a sudden, boom! Angelina's hand. Don't do you a touch. We saving them for the guests after the funeral. And now I almost forgot to conclude with what I promised you. So the doctor said you have to go to a specialist. This is 3 years ago. You have to go to a nephrologist. Anyone here go to a nephrologist? Kidney doctor? My kidneys are fine. You gotta go. Make a long story short, they do a kidney biopsy. I get called in and they say, the nephrologist says to me, have you ever heard of amyloidosis? Has anyone ever heard of it? If you haven't, it's a very rare, uncurable condition, disease, call it what you will. And I looked at her and I said, well, is it cancer? Well, it's a matter of semantics. That was her answer. It's a matter of semantics. Talk about bedside manner, semantics. It's not cancer, but there are amyloid renegade cells that can go through your system, attack your organs, and kill you. Well, what's the good news? So she said, how we treat it is you're going to be going to the Weinberg Cancer Center, and you're going to get treated. We treat it through chemotherapy, injections, etc. I go, but I'm feeling great. She go, well, maybe we got this in the early stages, but if we don't, things aren't going to turn out well. So I went to my daughters and said, hey, here's what happened. I told them all it is. And, there's all the love and support. So I start going to Weinberg Cancer, and I'm feeling great. I've seen all these people around me who look like they're not doing great. And I'm thinking, I'm doing okay. Midway through treatment, one morning I couldn't get out of bed. What's this? No sooner than I would stand up, I would hit the bricks. I said, they rushed me to the hospital. They said, people with amyloidosis react differently. This may be short-circuiting your brain. It's causing your blood pressure to tank. So they admitted me to the hospital, and I could stand for 10 seconds and then had to get back, sit down. So I said to the doctor, is this something that's can ever get better? Well, again, we find doctors are just doctors, they're not God. They go, well, we're treating you, your blood work's looking good, we're not sure why this is happening. So after they said they couldn't do anything in the hospital for me, they said in rehab, they sent me to a future care. They were trying to, but it's not a mechanical problem, it's your blood pressure drops. So I was 2 years ago in a wheelchair, could not get up. Then after a while, there'd be days where I could use a walker, and I'm walking along using that. And then that's when I started this. My daughter said, Dad, I live in Columbia. You got to sell your condo. You got to move in closer to Hopkins, and they started looking at Charlestown about assisted living, because we didn't know if I was ever gonna walk again. Through the grace of God, prayers, and I still think my mother had something to do with it, I started realizing I could walk, and my pressure wasn't dropping, and it's like, oh my God, praise the Lord for it. I couldn't believe it. So I moved to Baltimore, started with a walker, and now I go for every 6 months. They monitor me. They don't know what happened. I'm never going to get rid of the amyloid, but again, my scripted and unscripted life, I realized you make your plans. My mother's famous saying, one day at a time. Sweet Jesus, I wish you all good health and best of luck. Thank you so much. If there's a quick question, I'm sorry I went long because I know Paul said we have to leave right at, is there a question? I probably covered everything in 50 years in an hour 20, Paul.
I'd like to know what your mother's name was.
It should go up by itself once you push the button.
And
Top button.
Anna Pagnati and Amalio, do you know, this is a quick, my mother, old school, said, don't have another child when my daughter, Allie, was 2. Because, you know, my mother's feeling was when someone is born in a family, someone has to go. Do you know 9 months after my mother passed, on Christmas Day 1991, Anna, we named her after her late grandmother, was born on Christmas Day 9 months after my mother passed away. So, yeah, Anna Pagnavi, the former Anna Malio.
Any questions for Tony? Will you all cheer for the Ravens, you know? Thank you, Tony. We're over.
Okay. That's everything. Let's see.
Yes, she's Anna Pagnavi, and she's the director of the Monument.
And I stopped
Got
at
the
the red light to
lavaliers.
get to the,
Is he still talking out loud?
yeah. And so I turned around and he was gone.
So now we just need to check the batteries when we have to get the lavalier and we have to check the batteries at the time that are not circulating. You got them already? Okay, so we're supposed to change the batteries every time we made a decision that we would go ahead and change we have to get the lavalier from him. So we'll change all these batteries.
Could I do it again? It gets pretty young and crazy. I mean, it's a different. I was thinking.
Oh, you got it.
There's a little
Good strong fingers.
place you can put the fingers in back there.
Yeah, okay.
And there's two new ones.
Yeah. I don't know if those are chargeable. I have to look at them. They don't look to me like chargeable batteries.
That's always good to hear.
We got some others in the charger.
It's good therapy. I like it. I love your phone, but
Make sure it says rechargeable because we really shouldn't put the non-rechargeable batteries back in. Can you hand me a couple of other new ones? There are two that are still we haven't paid.
You know, I make the mistake again. He'll just say, I already talked to you about this. Can you always so I'm gonna sin again.
There's a bunch of these that are in the charger, so I assume it's all right. So you're gonna do them home?
These are done. Those, yeah. Those are.
Fun.
It was fun. Yeah. Hi, Kay.
Are you happy?
You knocked it out of the park this time, Cole.
Okay.
There you go, guys. I unplugged and put it under, its container.
Oh, great.
You want me to move
Thank
the,
you.
or can we keep the podium there?
I think it's all right to leave the podium, but we should put the screen on.
Okay.
Can you do that? No, Paul's gonna do that. Yeah, of course.
What a town is that tall?
No, you know, my mom used to say the milkman back in the day.
Well, when our son, Paul Martin, passed away, we had a penny.
I
understand.
That's it. He's a big guy. I think where he get that from. Same thing with me. They couldn't figure it out. My father and all his brothers were average size. My mother.
Here's my co-chair, you met Sylvia.
I don't know if we met yesterday, but I was at the event.
That was a great event.
Absolutely very nice.
Yeah.
I really
Well,
excited for the lady.
I'm gonna go.
Into television. And he's not in television. He loved it because he's in New
Huh?
York.
Wasn't that fun?
It was fun, but they need to turn the heat on in here.
Well, we don't pay our bills.
Young people
no, I've already told
age
you.
this comes on social media and I tell them it was tough back then, but it's even now because there wasn't for people who can put on social media more
He went to Emerson College.
Yeah.
It was great communication school. And he knew in high school exactly what he showed me what he worked. He did all the research. So, but you can apply 6 colleges. We're going to do this. Yeah. And it was good. He had a lot of good experience.
These two didn't seem to work. Those two didn't seem to work.
Get out and go.
I put them in and it didn't show that they were working.
A lot of marketing and everything.
So let's put those back in the charger.
Kind of money. But
And I need 2 more.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Take care.
Thank you.
Nice to see you again.
Thanks for the fine
Yeah,
playback.
nice job.
Thank you.
Very enjoyable. Thank you. You have your thumb drive, which is the only thing that we owe you, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, and yeah.
Now turn that off. Thank you.